Thank you for that lovely introduction. It's amazing to see my face than anything else that I've ever received. How are we?
Good.
Good. It's cold out, isn't it?
No.
Do you know why? No. Do you know why it's so cold out?
Alberta.
It's because the sunshine isn't here, baby. Yes. So as Akim mentioned, I run a blog, I do single careers, and I publish every week, almost every week. And people have asked me on multiple occasions what my thought process is. How do I come up with something to write about every week? What's my creative process? Well, here's my answer. I enter the mental conversation that's going on in my head at that very moment in time. So for example, on Friday, I was thinking about how IT leadership is still so severely unbalanced among the genders. By the afternoon, I was thinking about the most effective ways to work with people that make you go. And by the end of the weekend, I was thinking about how we can truly stay in business forever. Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Staying in business forever. I hope that's what you signed up for. Okay. So as I was thinking about this, I realized that being able to connect with those around us is so incredibly crucial to staying in business forever. It really is. We need to be able to develop deep and meaningful relationships, yes? And so today I thought we can talk about a few main ideas. I thought that we can talk about human connection, the power of what makes us so powerful, and the elements of human connection. And perhaps we can come away with some things that we can employ in our lives immediately to connect with those around us. I'd also like to chat about how one company in particular has been so successful in building customer evangelists. And finally, I thought that we can chat about how technology can now enable us to connect like never before. Does that sound good? Yes? All right. So as I was preparing for our chat, I thought it would be prudent to consult one of the utmost authority of leadership and communication, John Maxwell. Has anybody read any of John Maxwell's books? Yes, personal development people in the room. A few years ago, he wrote a book called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And right off the bat in this book, he suggests that communication, you guys, is passé. It really is. In order to build deep and meaningful relationships, we need to connect. Now, here's a glimpse of what goes on in people's minds. Why aren't people listening to me? What are they thinking about me? And why aren't they following me? Do you guys notice a commonality? Yeah, it's me. So it occurs to me that if we want to build deep and meaningful relationships, we need to get out of first what's going on in our own heads, yes? As John Maxwell writes, everyone communicates. Even my dog, who can't speak a word of English, or any human language for that matter, can communicate. She can tell us when she needs to go out. She can tell us when she's upset with us. That's an easy one. You'll know because she leaves a special present on your pillow. But few connect. And it's that connection that matters, isn't it? It's going the extra mile. It's remembering people's names. It's remembering that they don't like eggs when you bring in breakfast for the next day. That was probably a poor example because there's actually eggs on as a part of the buffet. Now, one story that spoke out to me from this book was told by a nurse, and she says that in her second year of nursing school, she was writing an exam, and she blasted through the questions. And she got to the last one, and the question read, "What is the name of the person who cleans the building?" Well, she thought it was a joke, so she left it blank and she handed it in. And then later on, somebody else asked the professor whether or not this particular question counted towards the final grade. And to her dismay, her professor was like, of course. In this world, Everyone is significant. They all deserve your attention and care, even if all you do is smile and say hello. And so that lesson stayed with her for the rest of her life. And to this day, she remembers that the person who cleans the building, well, her name is Dorothy. Well, let's bring this back to business for a moment. Now, we all know that the first rule in business is to find a problem and solve it, right? So I know y'all got your problems figured out because you all managed to start a business. And I know y'all have your solutions figured out because you're likely still in business today. So the question then becomes, how do we deliver that solution in a manner that would be best digested by our audience? All roads lead to engaging in the mental conversation of our audience and acting on it. Now, I get it, it's more easily said than done. But really, I think it's simpler than we all think. In 550 BC, the Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War. Can you guys read this? 知己知彼，百戰百勝. Okay, everybody.
Yeah.
It means if you know your enemy like yourself, you will have 100 successes across 100 battles. Really, you guys, sometimes all it takes to understand the problem is step into the shoes of our audience. And so let's dig a little deeper and see what we can do in order to do that. Well, one of the first things we can do is to get to know our neighbors. Now, I'm not telling you to go creep their Facebook page. That's not what I'm teaching you to do. But simply engaging in conversation of their life outside of work can be significant. With all of my colleagues and my clients, I've come to know their family life. I've come to know what their spouses' names are, their kids, perhaps what sports they play in. And I get that we need to reach a level of our relationship in order to have this information, because otherwise it is unquestionably creepy. But and would you guys agree that it's an honor to reach that relationship, yeah? Because that means that they like you and they trust you enough to share this information that is so near and dear to their heart. Here's another example. We're all from Edmonton here, yes? Okay. And how many of us work downtown? Raise your hands. One person, okay. So there's this place in Scotia Place, you know that building, Scotia Place downtown? There's this place called Chicken for Lunch. Does anybody eat chicken for lunch? All right. So you guys kind of perhaps know where I'm going with this. So everybody knows, and Chicken for Lunch, for those of you who don't work downtown or from Vancouver, it's this Chinese place in a food court. It's nothing special, it honestly isn't. But everybody knows that if you are going to eat at Chicken for Lunch, what you need to do is you need to leave your desk at around 11:15 in order to get there and stand in line. And this is obviously before essentially the entire rest of the food court opens for business. And the reason for this is that by 11:45, that line will have expanded to maybe even 3 store lengths long. Now, why is that? Is it really because their chicken is absolutely that much more fantastic than the rest of the food court? Maybe, I don't know. But I'm willing to bet that the magic is not in their food. The magic is in the lady who owns the kiosk. You see, all it takes is for you to have eaten there once, and she will remember you forevermore. Not only will she remember you, she will remember what you ordered. And not only will she remember what you ordered, but she will greet you like a longtime friend of hers. She'll be like, hey buddy, teriyaki chicken, yeah? Okay, 早冲啊, hey, 快点 啦. And then on it goes. And so you see what I'm saying? She creates this personal experience with each and every person who eats there, and it brings people back time and time again. Get personal. Another thing that we can do, and one of the most important things that we can keep in mind, is to not be a star. It's so easy to have that spotlight on us, isn't it? Case in point. A number of years ago, 10, maybe 15 years ago, I was pursuing becoming a motivational speaker. And I was once engaged by McEwen University to deliver a seminar on relaxation. Now, looking back, I realized what they really wanted me to do was to teach a yoga class. But in my naivete, for the full 90 minutes, I regaled every single possible experience of relaxation from my own life. I made it all about me. And I literally saw the eyeballs of my audience roll to the back of their heads. They were bored out of their mind. And so coincidentally, that also marked the end of my pursuit as a motivational speaker. But lesson learned, focus on them. If we focus the material, the presentation, and how that material applies to their life, we keep the spotlight on them. And so these, my friends, are some very, very simple keys that we can use to engage with all of those around us. Whether or not you're building a dream team in your organization, or it applies to more than business, even if you're trying to find the love of your life, 10 times out of 10, you guys, if you enter the mental conversation of your audience, you will connect. Now let's switch gears for a moment and talk about us as a customer, since I just spent the last 10 minutes telling you that it was all about us. Now, would you agree that it's hard to be a customer? It really is, isn't it? It's hard to remain loyal to run any one brand. And so when there is a company that has been so successful at building customer evangelists. Now, I get it, we all want customers, yes? Does anybody want customers here? Yeah, but we want more than just customers. We want our customers to market for us, to profess our brand for us, yes? We want customer evangelists. And so when there's a company who has done that successfully time and time again, it's definitely worth taking a note of. Before Lululemon, there were the juggernaut brands. I mean, there still are the juggernaut brands, like Nike, Reebok, Adidas. And if you were to look at any of their advertisements, you would likely see a celebrity endorsing their brand. You would see Maria Sharapova wearing a dress with a swoosh logo telling you to just do it. And Roger Federer wearing a dress, just kidding, having a similar message.
Yes, he knows.
And their brand message is that everyone is an athlete. It doesn't matter if you're young, you're old, you're short, you're tall. If you move, you are an athlete. But the problem was that the people who represented their brand were so high up there, we just couldn't identify with them. I mean, these were professional athletes. These are people who trained their entire life for that one sport. That wasn't me. That may be Curtis in his ultimate, but that certainly wasn't me. I mean, I just set foot in a gym a couple times a week, maybe teach a couple classes. They're unrelatable. And to be endorsed by these brands, you need to have been an elite athlete. You need to have some sort of fame going on in the world. Again, not me. On the other hand, if you were to look at any of Lululemon's ads, you would likely see a running coach from Surrey, BC, or a Pilates teacher from Regina. These are real people. These are your yoga instructors. These are your personal trainers. These are people that you can walk down the street on a Tuesday night and talk to in person. And so the first factor, and certainly not the only factor, but one of the main drivers as to why I believe that Lululemon has been so successful at creating customer evangelists is that they have successfully connected their brand with real people. And this is after their head honcho goes on the international stage. You guys remember that? He goes on the international stage and basically announces to the world that they only make clothes for a certain body type. And I remember that. Yes, I was like, oh no, you are going down. But what happened? Months later, I still found myself online at midnight checking out what's on sale. Another factor as to why I think they've been able to create such brand loyalty is that they convey the values of their users. Have you guys ever stopped to wonder what Lululemon's values are? It's actually pretty obvious. All you have to do is look at their shopping bag. And you'll see phrases like, friends are more important than money, and do something that scares you every day. Now, whether or not this is we actually practice this in our daily life is almost besides the point. But I'm sure you'll agree that these are likely the values of the users of their product. These are the values that their users deem to live a good life. They're conveying a feeling. They're conveying a feeling of wellness, of physical wellness, of mental wellness. They're not just telling you, it's not just a call to action. They're not just telling you to do it. Just do it like Maria Sharapova, or just go ahead and win the next Wimbledon. No big deal. Conveying good values. So finally, let's talk about how technology can enable us to connect like never before. Now, last year I was listening to a TED Talk by one Lisa Gansky. Have you guys ever has anybody heard of Lisa Gansky? Okay, yay, because we spoke earlier. Yes. So a few years ago, she did this TED Talk called The Future of Business is the Mesh. And so I'm happy to report, my friends, that the future is here. And I thought that instead of plagiarizing Lisa's definition of the mesh, I would let her explain it to you.
For me, a mesh company, the classic mesh company, brings together these three things: our ability to connect to each other. Most of us are walking around with these mobile devices that are GPS enabled and web enabled, allows us to find each other and to find things in time and space. And third is that physical things are readable on a map, so restaurants, a variety of venues, but also with GPS and other technology like RFID, and it continues to expand beyond that, we can also track things that are moving, like a car, a taxi cab, a transit system, a box that's moving through time and space. And so that sets up for making access to goods and services more convenient and less costly in many cases than owning them.
I want to tell you about my trip to Paris. So since we've had our 5-year-old, we no longer stay in hotels. In fact, how many people have kids here? All right, and how many people have traveled overseas with our children? Okay, and so I'm sure you can appreciate, either have been grateful for or wished you had at some point in time, an in-suite washer dryer for when you run out of clean underwear by day 3. Yes? Yes. So last November, we went to Paris with also my husband's best friend's family. And so the 5 of us adults and our 3 toddlers stayed in this spacious, beautiful Art Deco Airbnb in the heart of the Latin Quarter. It was owned by the stylish Parisian math teacher who might as well entered the room with a breakfast at Tiffany's cigarette in her hand. And upon our arrival, she immediately ensured that we knew every last detail about the apartment, the surrounding vicinity, how to get around Paris by foot, by bus, le métro, and then she left us to our day. Alas, we never took the bus or le métro, carting our strollers down flights of stairs trying to jam-pack 8 people into a busy subway. Nope. Instead, we took le Uber. It was quick, door-to-door service, and there seemed to be one within minutes of wherever we were in Paris. Now I want to share with you that companies like Uber and Airbnb are not in the business of transportation and accommodations. They're not. They are in the business of connecting people with cars, with people who need a ride, and people who have vacation properties with people who need a comfy place to stay. They are the classic mesh company. I mean, Uber doesn't have a whole fleet of cars waiting to cart people around, and Airbnb, I speculate, doesn't even own a single vacation property. They don't. What they do is they connect the people with the assets to the people who need to use those assets. They are the hub, and they are Ben, the middleman fee. And so you can appreciate that the infrastructure, in order to support such a business model, needs to be state-of-the-art. It needs to be way more than a bunch of data. Now, I really don't know what CRM system they use, and frankly, I don't care, particularly because we're at a Maximizer CRM event. But I do know this. The power of a CRM system is not just to hold what orders your customer has made, or the complaints of your customer, or whether or not they like chocolate cake or lemon meringue pie. The mark of a good CRM system is to be the powerhouse of intel, such that whoever uses that data can use it in a timely manner to enter the mental conversation of their customers at exactly that perfect moment in time. Ultimately, you guys, a good CRM system is to store the love you have for your customers. And so you can appreciate that with this behind you, this is what you can separate yourself from all of your competitors and enter the mental conversation of your customers. Thank you.